Well, welcome everyone. This is our inaugural edition. I said inaugural right, I was worried about that word. This is the very first edition of Guitar Tales. I have my buddy here, Scott Engel. This is a brand new show that's going to be about guitar players you might not have heard of, but there's a lot of them. I looked up, I did some research going into today. There are 269 guitar centers in the United States. Did you know that?
I did not.
How many employees do you think they have?
Well, they probably have a lot of employees, but I think all the employees kind of look like the other employees. It's just like a certain type of employee.
Right. Cool.
They're always annoyed with me when I go in there. I never play Stairway to Heaven. I probably should.
You should?
Yeah.
Well, there's 10,000. So what this really means, and one of my thoughts about putting this show together, is that there are wonderful guitar players all over New Jersey, all over the country you've never heard of. So we all know the famous ones, the Jimmy Pages of the world. But there's wonderful musicians who've made a life out of music, but still have day jobs. And one of the things that I care about are the stories about the people who have guitar in their life, who have bands in their life, who have history, and people who are old enough of a certain age who have the perspective to look back on a life in music and the times that sometimes life can interfere a little bit with music and music can interfere with life. And as I thought about my personal history with all the bands I've been in, so many guitar players I've met, wonderful musicians, and people who've really stuck with it and still built their own lives. So the first person I thought of to start our show after I met with my dear friends at Riverview Studios, put the name up right there, riverviewstudios.com, and is Scott Engel. There you go. I have known Scott since about 1978, 79.
Definitely a while ago.
Yeah, we've had a number of bands together, but it was really just one band in our bedrooms as kids. Doesn't sound right. But
Yeah, we never played in the garage for some reason.
No, it was always annoying our parents in the house.
Yeah, my poor mom and maybe your parents too. My mother's still traumatized to this day that my bedroom was on the second floor and we had all these rock bands come over there. We had the drums set up in the bedroom, amplifiers, the whole works, and the chandelier in the dining room would literally sway. Oh. She talks about it all the time. She goes, if you ever get famous, you better, thank me that I put up with all that nonsense and all that loud music.
I get yelled at.
And all those weirdos coming to that house.
Yeah. And then we had our gear. You always had to have new gear.
Right.
So
that would be drag that up the stairs and amp. Boom, 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 boom.
I had my Sun 112. It was about probably 80, 90 pounds. I put it on the front of my bicycle. I would ride through Mattawan with it.
My first amp was a Lab Series amp, solid state amp. Kind of like this. This is sort of a solid state.
It's a nice one.
Very loud.
Right.
Not a whole lot of tone. Pretty light. But that's all we could afford back then.
It is.
And at some point, my dad got me for Christmas a Fender Twin Reverb.
Oh, that's a beautiful amp.
Which once I got into the wedding band scene at some point, because my dad was a drummer, as you know, and he always had lots of advice like, stay out of rock bands, don't be in a rock band, you won't make any money, it's a miserable career, and get into a wedding band and make some real money. So that's what I did. I went and played in a wedding band. I totally sold out, wore a tuxedo.
Did you really?
And I had the Fender Twin Reverb, and one cold winter's wedding, all the tubes fell out of the amp.
Oh, really?
Smashed in the parking lot, and I'm like, now what am I going to do? Yeah, because I guess it was cold. I don't know what happened. I hit a bump and they all fell out.
Wow.
So I got in touch with the local music store as a friend of ours, and he stayed open.
Joe Luria, I bet, right?
And he lent me a Marshall.
And he never turned
So
back.
here I was playing a Marshall at a wedding band gig, and it was just so loud and so ridiculous to play, Frank Sinatra through a Marshall. But I did, and I fell in love with Marshalls ever since.
Well, I'm going to cut you off because I want to go back into Scott Engel's history a bit.
Go ahead.
All right. So you and I are the same age, class of 1982 in Mattawan.
Right.
And you started as a drummer. Your dad was a drummer.
Dad's a drummer, and
a jazz drummer, right?
Yeah, he was with a band in the '50s called the Rocketones. They made some records with Jubilee Records and Elizabeth. And a quick side note: the lead singer of their band, Pete Saragusa, who had a son who became a very famous football player.
Oh, really?
Goose Saragusa.
Okay.
Anyway, I ran into Goose at a bar, and I whispered into his ear. I go, "The Rocketones," and he turned around like, How do you know the Rocketones?
Oh, that's
I go,
funny.
your dad and my dad were in this band together. Anyway, so yeah, I started off playing drums, pretty serious with it for a long time.
You were a good drummer.
Yeah, and I still play.
Oh, okay. You still.
And I think drums really, really help musicians. I mean, because I played bass and I played piano and all that. And I think that really having a good rhythm bass really helps with everything.
Well, what I remember is how generous you were. And we were talking before we started just a few minutes ago. So when we were jamming together, I was on guitar, and then when we needed another person in the band, you slid over from drums. You gave it to Pete.
Being multi-instrumental person, and I never used to sing then either, because I got my guts to sing later on in the wedding band. They made me sing,
Right.
and now you can't shut me up. Singing Twisted Sister songs and Bon Jovi songs, whatever it takes with the band. But yeah, I mean,
You were on
I
keyboards with us.
could easily slide over into another position to fill in the gap of the band, whatever we needed. Need a bass player? Okay, I'll play bass. You need me on the keyboards? I'll play the keyboard.
But something drove you to guitar.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk a little bit about that. So when we were in a band, you weren't a guitar player.
No.
And you
Didn't
did
know
some
how to
keyboard
play
and
guitar
drum.
at all.
And then in college, we jammed once when you were in college. And what is it that drew you? Because right now, I mean, when I think of you as a guitar player.
Right.
So,
Yeah, a lot of people do now.
Yeah.
I call myself Guitarmacist.
right. We got all sorts of websites. to
Yeah,
put on
yeah,
the
I got
net.
tons of stuff.
But something, either musically or emotionally, or perhaps, and I want to run this by you, attention getting.
I have an answer for this.
Okay, I want to hear it.
There's a definite answer. So here I am at the University of Rhode Island and going to pharmacy school, and my roommate was a guitar player, and he had an Ovation under the bed. And when he'd go to class, and I got, being I'm interested in all these instruments, I said, I never really learned how to play guitar. Let me noodle around on this thing. Totally clueless. I'm totally self-taught to this day. Never had a lesson on guitar, which is a curse and a blessing at the same time. But so I started messing around with that. Secondly, you can't play drums in a dormitory. You can't really, you can't beat on drums. You can't have a drum. You can't have, and those days they didn't have any electronic drums.
You can't play a song alone anyway.
Right. So and then you go to parties, and the guy's got his guitar out and he's playing, and the girls are swooning, and I'm beating on my, I'm playing on my knees like a monkey.
Right.
And I go, I really need to learn how to play guitar if I'm going to meet girls. So that's how it kind of started.
And that's exactly what I was getting at.
That's
is
how
that
it goes.
a lot of guitar players I know love music. You love music. I love music. But people sometimes approach it for
And
reasons that aren't music.
And piano, I mean, piano is, it is a percussion instrument, but when you play guitar, it's more emotional. You can bend the strings, you can play loud, you can play soft, you can play it like a drum.
Yeah, it's incredibly percussive.
You can beat that thing, and you can, like you said, you could just do percussive sounds even.
Right. Show us.
The chicka,
Do it. Do the chicka.
classic chicka.
Do the chicka.
right?
And by the way, one of the things we're going to be doing on this show, every show will have a live guitar. We got our amp set up here. And my guests will always be able to just pick up a guitar. You want to play something?
Like we're talking about, like,
Let me hear a chicka.
here's a,
Right.
just whatever it is. And then you got all kinds of weird noises. And you have, you take one note and you can make it come out sounding different ways. So you have like a fretted note and a fretted harmonic.
All right, now show people how you do the harmonic. You got the fat of your finger here, hand right here.
Yeah, when I first learned on my own without YouTube, again in
Right.
those days we didn't have anybody to teach us, I used to drag my pinky
Oh, really?
and play. So
And what he's doing right here, if you look,
I'm
kind of the
just
fat
like,
of his hand right there.
yeah, like my pinky's dragging along.
Oh, he's doing your pinky.
Yeah, so, but the way you're really supposed to do it, you're supposed to take the fatty part of your thumb,
Right.
kind of,
And someone who's watching you can't
kinda
see
pick.
you doing that, but it's creating a harmonic.
right.
Because you're really changing where the bridge is.
And that's when I was listening to ZZ Top,
Right.
he was doing a lot of, he would do, like,
right. Every single note is a
right.
harmonic.
It's-
Yeah.
You could just play. has no soul. You know what I mean? And those little bends and stuff.
Now, do you find it slows you down a little bit? Like, can you go quite as fast with a harmonic?
Yeah, it wouldn't be for fast picking.
Right,
You know.
right.
But yeah, I mean, when I discovered, I don't know where I discovered it or how I discovered it, but I decided, well, if I just drag my pinky,
So is that how you do it now?
I do a little hybrid of both.
Do you know what you do? Like, are you aware of it?
I usually do both.
Okay.
Yeah, like depending on what guitar you're playing, you kind of know, like, if I, that's a pinky drag, and here's
Right. And when
know.
you're doing it, you're in automatic, I would imagine.
Yeah, you know.
And I see a lot of people, their hands going to be further up the neck doing harmonics. You like it back near the bridge.
Yeah, you can get back in here, and then there's just the they're all over the place,
Right, right.
you know.
I Will Follow has one of those going on.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a
and
little
the
out of tune
harmonics in there too, with a break.
I have good pitch. I
There
could
you
tell
go.
immediately I was out of tune.
Now, before we go on, I want to give you some street cred with the folks who are listening. So Scott is in a band that is called the Smokin Jackets. There's no G. The Smokin
Right.
Jackets. And I wrote down your website because I'm not shy about the fact that I don't remember it. It's the SmokinJacketsBand.com. The Smokin I got it wrong. The Smokin
Jackets Band.
Bandits. The SmokinJacketsBand.com.
It's a nice looking website. We have like they put a time counter there. So whenever the next gig is coming up, which is Saturday, there's actually like, you know, the seconds are ticking away and the days are ticking away. You know, like kind of a.
It's very cool. I saw you last summer, and I got to tell you, there's something about what you do, and I'll get a little serious for a minute here. So you have an incredibly wide social media presence. So you post a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then your band plays, now that the season's in, you guys are playing probably once or twice a week easy.
We'll do 40 shows this summer.
All right, so it's a lot.
All in the Jersey Shore area.
And I found something consistent between your social media presence and your show.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure positive energy. In
Oh,
other
yeah.
words, you post all day long and you're entertaining people. You're kind of pulling people together.
Right.
And I really like that because, you know, like everyone has their own politics and,
Right.
and it's interesting to read a little here and there, but you're putting on posts that simply allow people in their busy day to chuckle or find something interesting.
That's what it's all about. I mean, look, music is a business, and I had a guy that was like in another band. I won't mention his name, but he was very political online.
Right.
And I'm like, you're going to lose 50% of your audience
Right, right.
if you're pro this or pro that or negative this and negative that. So you always see it's always a little jokey thing, and I'm very careful about what I'm joking about. And a couple of videos of me playing guitar, and also you won't see a lot of me noodling, like you know, playing like a wild man on guitar. Nobody cares.
Right, right. Because
Right?
you're not doing it to show off.
I always tell
Yeah.
people like the big gig killer is playing Eruption
Right,
by
right.
Van Halen at a gig. It's I call it the bathroom song.
Oh, that makes sense.
Nobody, look, it's great you can handle the song and play the song, but people just, they're not impressed anymore. Eddie does it better anyway.
Right, right.
So, you know, why bother putting that out there? It just I feel it like drags the energy out of the room. It really does.
Well, you know, and it's funny.
It's a real rookie move. Just, you know,
Right.
just play. We do some Van Halen songs
But the
in the
fun
band.
ones.
We just go right into the song. There's no noodling.
Right.
There's no fancy stuff.
But your show is consistent with your internet presence.
Yeah.
Your show is pure positive energy. You
Lot
have
of
those
fun.
things those confetti-ish things.
We
that
have
blow-
confetti cannons. Sometimes we blow up. The first time we played the Stone Pony, we had the confetti cannon loaded, and we got permission from the owner that we were going to do this.
Right.
But the stagehands at the Pony said to the drummer Tom Janarone, he goes, you know, you can't shoot that off in here, right? And Tom goes, yeah, like, oh yeah. So end of song, boom, confetti all over the place, and they were really annoyed.
Oh, that's funny.
To watch stagehands vacuum up confetti with a vacuum, you got to use a leaf blower. And we have toilet paper guns. I play kazoo, and,
Right, I've seen
and a
that, yeah.
Springsteen song. because nobody plays saxophone. So at practice, I had a kazoo in my bag because I used to cover like an old
Rosalita, maybe?
Ringo Starr song that actually used a kazoo.
Oh, okay.
There's a kazoo solo in a Ringo Starr song. I forget which one it is. But so I had this kazoo, and I said, let me just play the solo with the kazoo, and then the keyboard guy can learn it later on. And it was so funny and so ridiculous that to this day, I play the solo to Born to Run, the saxophone solo on the kazoo.
And it probably works.
You know, and what people don't realize is I have to sing those high notes of
through
the
the
sax
kazoo.
through the kazoo.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm not blowing into an instrument making a note. I'm actually, screaming into this thing.
That's good. Well, you know, it's funny.
But it's a whimsical thing, and we have the drummer holds up signs. Let's hear it. Let's clap.
I think that's wonderful.
It's fun. It's a really, really fun band. It's fun to watch, and something my dad taught me early on is like, people don't necessarily care what a great musician you are, and there are a lot of excellent musicians, but they don't want to see a player. They want to see a performer. They want to be entertained.
Yeah, I like that. And the thing is, when I watched you guys, what I was thinking about is the early Bruce Springsteen days. Not Bruce himself, but what he sang about.
Right.
When his songs, the thematics in his songs were talking about people having their really stressful, challenging lives, and they escape to the Jersey Shore.
Right.
And you guys are really carrying on in that tradition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's people. I mean, they've seen us play the same songs like 1,000 times, that yet they still get up there. They still dance. They still cheer. They love the confetti cannon. We actually bought a bigger confetti cannon. I hope that was a mistake, but it's as big as this amp.
Oh, really?
It has a giant cone on it, and it can fill something like 6,000 square feet of confetti, or some kind of ridiculous amount of confetti. But yeah, we have a good time.
Well, and the funny thing is, so I'm thinking like,
and our songs are even our song choices are a little bit weirder or whimsical.
Well, they're fun, but they're accessible.
We're covering Loverboy songs. We're covering the old favorites, and this goes back to people want to be performed. Like you get a trendy band to go. Nobody's a Sweet Caroline. It's so ridiculous. I mean, who the hell wants to hear that? Listen, everybody wants to hear it, and if you do it your own way,
right,
and you have fun with it, and you let people sing, those corny songs, they may not be challenging on guitar,
right,
or vocally or anything, but it's not about us.
No,
it's about performing.
That's why you're successful, dude. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Steve Vai, I met Steve at a taping of the Metal Show. A friend of mine was one of the hosts of that show, and Steve Vai said, he's a virtuoso. He's fantastic.
Right.
His gigs are full with guys on the front row, not hot girls or anything like that. Just a bunch of dudes staring at his equipment and trying to figure out what the settings are.
Yeah, I don't like those. I mean, he's great, but I don't like that stuff.
People have told me they get bored seeing Yngwie Malmsteen playing.
I wouldn't care
Fantastic player, but it's too much. Like, people can't even comprehend.
No.
It's not the fun atmosphere that we have. That's not the area that we're going.
And that's like they're the Satrianis of the world. Like he's great, but
I'm lucky if I can copy 1% of those guys.
Right. And you don't want
guitar players copy each other. Let's be honest, we copy each other. Right. But being in a cover band, I'm basically playing other guitar players' stuff that they thought of, and I just have to figure out how to play it and make it work.
Right, but it brings joy to people around you. It brings joy to you. I see that. I watch you.
We cover Crazy Train, and it was like the last song of the night. We did Crazy Train, played the solo, the whole thing, confetti cannon. And this really tough, burly, biker-looking dude, comes up to me, real serious after I'm getting off the stage with my guitar. I'm like literally putting my guitar in the case, and he goes, "Dude," and I'm like,
"You're about to get your ass kicked."
Yeah, I'm seriously thinking I'm going to get some kind of ass kicking or getting yelled at or something. Like, "You totally did justice to Randy." Yeah, and we fist pumped. And I'm like, "Okay, let me buy you a beer, man."
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, it was.
Here's an example. You made that guy feel good. He went out. He didn't spend a ton of tickets.
He thought it was great.
Well, he can't watch Rhodes anymore, but the band,
And then I got other people. I play my ass off all night with guitar, and sometimes if I'm in a good mood, I'll play behind my back or do something crazy, or do a 3-foot jump or something crazy. Some people that you think people are going to. I know. Tell me about it. that kazoo solo was insane. You know, what about the other stuff? Well, they went on to get
They like the kazoo solo.
Again, nobody gives a damn. It's all about performance.
That's great.
I really
advice.
believe that.
Now, how does it make you feel that, you know, if you were to think of the most famous small musical venues in the country, I would say the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Right.
Probably the Stone Pony would make like the top 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I
usually.
mean, I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, the Whiskey and the Stone Pony are probably the 2 most famous I could think of.
We were at the Pony one night, and Constantine Morales, the American Idol guy, was a friend of the band. He wanted to sing Journey with us.
Right.
So he just come off Rock of Ages tour, and I'm like, he was real nervous about playing the Stone Pony in a weird way. He goes, like, I only know a part of the song because of Rock of Ages, we don't really do the whole song.
Well, he's like a rock guy, isn't
all
he?
these, like, he's really nervous. I'm like, look, it's Journey. Everybody knows, you know, Journey songs, and you're gonna kill it. Don't worry about it. He goes, yeah, but I literally just flew in from LA, Whiskey A Go-Go, and now I'm on the East Coast, and the Stone Pony is just as important.
Right.
And to us, living in New Jersey, we don't think of the Stone Pony like that.
I don't agree with you.
You know,
I look
it's
at that.
really iconic, like the
Yeah.
world over.
I look at that. You might think, you know, like, if we air on time, Scott's playing at the Stone Pony this weekend on Saturday, which would be the 20th?
Yes, sir.
The 20th, 7 a.m., and this is a name I had to write down.
7 p.m. I don't get up that early.
Yeah, right, 7 p.m. Hold on, what was the name of this other guy?
Joe Bonanno and the Godsons will be opening
Thank
up for
you.
them.
Joe, Jobonon, and the Godsends.
We won't be shooting any confetti after our 45-minute set. I'm sure that
So you're
the
opening
band
for him.
after us won't be appreciative of that. But
No, that wouldn't be cool. But let me ask you this: how do you feel? Like, I mean, I'm telling you, other than the Whiskey, I can't think of a more iconic. And maybe
it's pretty wild.
because
yeah.
of what Bruce did to the Stone Pony. The
Yeah, I
Whiskey,
think Constantine made me more nervous about playing the Pony now from that point on. Because it was so trite. I mean, you know, Asbury in those days was pretty run down, and the Pony still lived on, and he still had great acts in there, national acts, and great musicians, and great shows. But, you know, I feared for my life when I left the gig from the Stone Pony in those days. I put a key between each finger.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know,
now
and
it's
I had a pocket full of money.
right.
and
Oh, right.
walking out to my car.
Yeah.
My dad used to use his drums as weaponry when he left his gigs.
Oh, really?
In Elizabeth in those days.
Oh, yeah. I guess Elizabeth would be a pretty rough town.
Drumsticks, cymbals, hi-hat stands, you
Cymbal
know.
would hurt. The cymbal would really hurt.
El Caban.
Yeah, that would also hurt. But yeah, you're part of a tradition, and you know you're 30 years after him. Well, Bruce is only 20 years older than us, I guess. But you're part of a Jersey Shore tradition, and
A lot of these, all these guys started playing covers.
right.
You know? I mean, I'm long in the tooth to be any kind of famous rock star or nothing, and I have friends that tour that are famous rock people.
Right.
It's a tough lifestyle. I mean, if you think I'm an actual real pharmacist, and once in a while those two worlds collide.
Yeah. Let me hear about that.
We're
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to cut you off.
go ahead.
So you went to University of Rhode Island 5-year program, playing all along the way.
Right.
I also learned today for the first time that you stole the name of one of my bands.
did.
And even created a logo for it.
Yes, I did.
And you didn't tell me until now, 30 years later.
I know.
almost.
Well, you know, I was desperate.
Right. John Doe and the Generics. That was the name of our band.
Great name, and it's a great name for a pharmacy band.
Or a cover band. Generic. I didn't get that. Yeah.
We played a pharmacy banquet, and they wanted us to do a couple of songs. And it's funny to this day. Another friend of mine, this guy, found me on Facebook, and he goes, "That was insane." And now after I just had my eruption rant,
Right.
I started off that gig by playing a piece of Eruption with a really super loud
You
guitar.
were a kid back then.
Yeah, and this one professor, Professor Osborne, not Ozzy Osbourne, it was a different professor.
Yeah.
He actually took his hearing aids out of his ears, which I found out this story later on. I'm like, that's awesome. That is so worth it.
Oh, that's funny.
So we did a bunch of songs, but we called ourselves John Doe and the Generics, and we made a little logo and we promoted it. But it was just for the pharmacy banquet dinner.
All right. Well,
We did like 4 or 5 songs, and don't sue me. I got rid of the name.
Talking to a lawyer, you know.
I know. I got rid of that one time.
We never copyrighted the name. But so you go on and you become a pharmacist.
Yes.
And you never gave up guitar, which I think is wonderful. You never gave up being not just sitting at home playing guitar, but really playing guitar.
Yeah, I don't know why I never from time to time, I see friends of mine, they get into a professional life and they stop playing the drums, or they sell their drums, or they sell their guitars. And for me, it's such a relaxing thing. Les Paul once said, this is a partner, a confidant, a psychiatrist. It's, and when I was in pharmacy school, the guitar really kind of saved me from being totally overwhelmed and stressed out. I would just sit down on the bed and figure out a couple of songs and then go back to my studies.
And then, so now you work.
It's kind of calming now talking to you. Here we are. We got
I picked up
three-camera
on that.
shoot here
Yeah.
in Bordentown, and I got my guitar.
And how nice does it feel just to have a guitar in your lap?
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the
Especially
way,
this one.
Here, that's right. Here's our segue. So you're one of the spokespeople for Killer Bee Guitars.
Yeah, I endorse Killer Bee. I've been with them for 2 years now, and they built this one from scratch for me. But I call it the Stinger.
I like that.
It's got a neck with a radius modeled after the old Kramers from Neptune, New Jersey.
Yep.
And
My favorite guitar ever.
yeah, they put some powerful pickups in it for me, and we stuck a drop D to it, and they brought it to a body shop, a car body shop, and they put this wild paint job on it.
Yeah, I love it.
And I love it. It just pops.
Look how you were afraid I was going to drop it.
No.
What I love that they
not-
did with the neck is that there's no finish on it.
No, it's
Which is
totally
crazy
finish free, and they soaked it in linwood oil or something, I think.
It's got this
Kevin?
weird, it's not a fast neck, but it's got a
No.
cool feel. And then you went crazy with the frets here. You've got really prominent frets on this.
Yeah, really, I like the old jumbo frets. Being an 80s
Very
metalhead,
cool.
I
Yeah,
love
like
that
you can
stuff.
see it over there. I don't know if the camera can pick
Yeah.
up on that. But these are about as high frets as I've ever seen.
It just makes it easier to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you barely have to fret the note to
But does
make
it
it
slow
happen.
you down at all? If you're,
No,
if you have to
no.
go- But that was always, like my Fender that I had for years, it's like it had no frets. They were so worn out at a 78 Strat.
Yeah, and then they start buzzing and stuff.
Yeah, but I liked it because I liked how fast I can move up and down. the
What was
neck.
your very first guitar? Now I'm taking over for a second.
You can take over. So, all right, so we go all the way back to Matawan, Bernadine's Music, and Galen ran the place and he owned it. So my first guitar was a Tisco.
Oh my
And,
God.
yeah, Tisco was, and I researched it more recently.
And now they're worth $500,000, right?
No, but I have a story about that. So my first guitar was a 12-string semi-hollow body Tisco.
You started with a
floating bridge.
12?
Yeah, I only put 6
That must
strings
have
on
drove
it
you crazy.
to learn one string Smoke on the Water. So, and I could never get it in tune because the stupid bridge kept going back and forth. It was $20
Was that the first song you ever learned on guitar, Smoke on the Water?
with one string, just one
I think
string.
my one string song was 25 or 6 to 4. That was the first one.
That
I
was
ever
one of
learned,
my
yeah.
first. Yeah. Right.
But I didn't even have that. I didn't even
Right.
throw it
No,
out
it's
in. It was
just
just,
And you weren't making the note that clean.
no.
Right. Now, my biggest guitar regret was what's the Edsel Fender? Do you remember this?
No.
It was a semi-hollow body. It'll come to me. I got it from Galen for $25, $30. I had a 1960-something Fender. It also had a floating bridge, but with a Fender, I didn't care. And it was stunning. It was a stunning guitar. The name of it'll come to me. It was one of their least successful guitars.
You had some Kramers too, didn't you? along
I
the
did.
way?
I had the Kramer aluminum split neck. but
Yeah.
I went to sell it.
The thing was like so heavy.
It was very neck heavy, but that Fender, I felt guilty because they offered me $100 to buy it, and I said no, I'll only take like $80, and today it would probably worth $3,000 or $4,000.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, but my Kramer, I had one of the original Kramer with the aluminum neck where you had a T-frame.
That's the original. Yeah.
The original, and it was my favorite guitar I ever owned. But this part was 1,000 pounds. Your guitar was
Yeah,
always
it was
down.
really very
Yeah.
top heavy because
And
it was all aluminum.
Yeah, and then the fretboard was just it was like a composite, this charcoal kind of composite. There was no wood on the neck.
No.
Like there was wood. There were 2 inlays of wood right here. You had a piece of aluminum riding up the middle, and
Yeah.
then the whole neck was the tuning fork look.
Right, I
You know,
remember
the
that.
split neck.
I actually do remember that.
Yeah.
My first guitar was, my dad brought home a, now we weren't really into guitar. My dad would just very graciously present us with musical instruments to mess around with, you know. So Uncle Joe Laurie Music in Rahway,
Right.
was a good pal of ours, and he said, you know, I'm going to pick up some guitars at this store that had a fire.
Oh, I I remember this.
So he bought a bunch of, he basically liquidated this other guy's music store, kind of saved his ass and bought a bunch of stuff. Can we say ass?
We can.
Okay. So one of the guitars he got was this, with this Montaigne Les Paul copy.
Okay.
I just remember the name Montaigne. I mean, it's just a weird name. It didn't say, anything cool like Guild or.
But it would have had two.
Les Paul, but it was modeled after a normal Les Paul with the 4 knobs, the 2 tones and the 2 volumes. Anyway, so the thing was a little burned, like it was actually burned in the fire. And when my dad got it home, he took it out of the trunk. He dropped it and broke the neck. So my first guitar was a Montaigne broken, burned guitar, and we had the neck fixed.
How'd you get just? Glue?
They glued it somehow, glued it back together. I don't know. Maybe the guy at the shop. It was terrible.
Yeah,
it was terrible. But it was enough to go.
Right.
And then somewhere along the line, when we started to get more chops, my dad was able to get me a '79 Stratocaster.
That's almost like
from a guy that came into the shop and needed some money, and he gave him whatever they were worth then in '79.
Now, are you rosewood or maple? What do you like on your fretboard?
I'm a rosewood guy, or ebony.
Yeah.
I could be a snobby purist and say, well, I can tell the difference, and I really can't.
Yeah.
A lot of guys tell you they can. For me, it's more about the neck radius.
Oh, right. Do you like skinny?
I like the skinny.
Right. Yeah.
Kramer-esque.
Right.
If you will, neck.
Yeah.
I have a couple of Kramers in my collection. One's called a Kramer Sustainer. It's fairly rare. The Sustainer pickup was invented by Floyd Rose.
Oh, okay.
And it was right here in the neck, and you have some little micro switch. I should have brought that in. It's a very cool guitar, maybe some other time. It's got these little micro switches on it. It can hold a note indefinitely.
Literally?
By exciting the strings, kind of like an EBow.
Oh.
Steve Vai uses a more modern version of that apparatus in his Evo guitar. But it'll hold a note forever. And 3 different octaves.
That's pretty cool.
The actual octave, and then 2 other harmonics.
That's almost like
wild.
an early version of what the Edge did.
Yeah, and it would just hold a note. So if you're just playing regular chords, nothing's going on. The minute you solo or 2-handed tap, there's infinite sustain.
It's monophonic, not polyphonic,
really
the way that technology was. Now, we have a friend, Steve Petersek. Remember, he had a guitar where every fret was wired. Do you remember that guitar? I think it was a Hagstrom, maybe?
Hagstrom did a lot of weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the company had a pickup or cartridges or something you could put in the back. I think that might have been them too.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Very creative, and they were coming up with different.
He didn't use
ideas.
it that much. He played it as a regular guitar, but every fret was wired, so it could become almost like a piano, because you could just press that with just your left hand, and he would create a note even without doing anything else to the string. So this became almost like a keyboard. And I had one of those for years. I had a Brian Moore guitar that had a similar setup.
A lot of switches and buttons on that.
I just played it like a guitar. I couldn't figure out how to use that stuff.
Well, my '79 Strat is what I used for many years, and I still have it. In fact, I brought it out this last week after The Dirt became very popular on Netflix. I said, wouldn't it be fun to just maybe play some Motley Crue songs?
Yeah, tell us that story, because I watched this on Facebook. What happened?
Yeah, so I was playing. It wasn't the one where I said you got to play the lick.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of.
No, I think I was playing Home Sweet Home, but I was actually playing. I had Alexa playing or streaming the song, and I was playing to it.
Right.
The solo, and I put the video up.
I'm so old, I almost asked you who Alexa is.
I put the song online, and within seconds, I got like a cease and desist electronic message from Warner Music. You can't use that because of licensing. Do you want to delete it, or do you want to dispute it? So I was kind of annoyed. I said, there's tons of guys playing songs along with records on eBay and YouTube and
You're
stuff.
just that good, Scott.
So I don't think it was about me being good. I don't know what happened there. Oh. I was playing it note for note, so maybe it just looked like I was pretending to play.
They probably have an algorithm.
Yeah, so the algorithm sniffed it out, shut me down. And I disputed it, and I'm happy to say within about a week they said, okay, we unmuted your video and you can show it to the world.
That's very cool.
And by then it was too late. It was a week old, and nobody cares about the
So let's take a break right now. You're watching us, you're listening to us on Guitar Tales on the inaugural show with my dear friend Scott Engel. Give us some outro music. We'll fade. Well, welcome back everyone to the very first edition of Guitar Tales with my dear friend and guest Scott Engel.
Good to be here, man.
It's great to have you. A second thanks to Riverview Studios. Fantastic facility. We should have the cameras pan around here. This place is absolutely fantastic.
Very impressive.
It's just a great facility.
Like a real rock star.
You are a real rock star. So we were chatting with Mary in between, and I lost track. So what I was trying to get you to, and she's so right, I wanted to talk about something that's important, and I got hung up on the fact that you stole my band name. Which you did, and you'll be served with the complaint soon. But so
what was that flattery quote? You know, is copying is flattery or
is the
something?
Greatest form of flattery? No,
that's not going to help me.
Your ass sued.
Okay.
So no. So what we wanted to talk about, both of us really, is the challenges you face because when people watch shows like this, it's usually someone famous who doesn't have a day job.
Right.
And they might talk about the challenges of being on the road versus family, okay? But what you have is a completely different animal, and you're not alone. You're a working band member.
Yeah, absolutely.
Full-time job, family, even pets. You were talking about taking care of your dog.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Oftentimes, it is challenging. The band schedule, I said, we do like 40 shows in the summertime, a couple in the winter, a couple in the spring. And, that is time away from family. It's not time away from work.
Right.
Work is always there.
Right.
I'm a full-time pharmacist. I work 2 different stores. And so I have a rule that pills pay the bills, and I don't play any gigs on the weekends I work. The last thing I want to do is come home 2 in the morning, shot out of a cannon, can't fall asleep right away because just did a show, and then go to work by 9 o'clock and deal with people's lives, like giving flu shots and whatnot. So that's out of the question. I don't want to leave myself open to any problems.
Well, you know what I find interesting? You and I hadn't chatted in probably 2 decades. We always stayed in touch, through Facebook. So
and he shows up at my gig one day, and I'm
did.
What are you doing?
Surprised you. Yeah.
It was so great.
When you talk about pharmacy, this air of just serious professionalism just comes right out of you.
Yeah, like guitar player and pharmacist really don't go together. And
right.
And it's my dear friend Pat who years ago coined the phrase Guitarmacist. And
you didn't come up with that?
No, I didn't. Pat reminds me all the time that he came up with that idea.
I like it. Yeah.
So I loved it, and it's stuck ever since. But yeah, man, I've never booked a gig from the pharmacy. It just looks ridiculous. It doesn't seem like, a pharmacist could never be a guitar player and vice versa. I was doing a wedding gig, and there was a lady there, and she goes, you look really familiar to me, but I can't figure out where I know you from. She goes, you're my pharmacist. Oh my God, and she got all crazy. Like they can't believe it.
Right.
And I go, so I decided to have a little fun with her because she was having a couple of cocktails, and I said, well, I actually have a twin brother. You think that egghead pharmacist would be in a band jumping around like a nut? She goes, yeah, you're probably right. I just didn't make any sense to me. And at the end of the night, I told her the truth, and she punched me in the arm so hard I thought I was going to have to get an operation. But
oh, that's funny.
But once in a while, the 2 worlds collide. I'll see a customer at a gig, and they'll give me that kind of weird,
Well, how do you feel about that? Yeah. Like, in other words, do you feel like suddenly you've lost your professional veneer?
Yeah, in a weird way. But also it can go the other way. Seeing a customer get wrecked at a gig.
Oh, that's true.
And going crazy. One lady was so embarrassed that she stopped coming to the store.
Oh, right.
And I said, it's okay. You had a good time. Don't worry about it. Come on back. Because we call everybody that transfers out. We want to know why they're transferring out.
Right.
Did
we do
something
anything
personal?
wrong?
Did we do something wrong? So she came clean and said that she was very embarrassed and couldn't feel like she couldn't face me.
Right.
But you still trust me as a professional? She goes, yeah, and you're a fantastic guitar player, and I want to come back. I said, all right, come on back. And she goes to the shows every now and again.
So when does it get really hard? Like have you had occasions in your life?
Well, it's tough where we get an opportunity to play a gig that the whole band wants to play. had a chance to play Giant Stadium, I think, for
Really?
some kind of thing, and I couldn't do it. It was just on a work weekend, and it's my rule. I just cannot risk coming home late and going to work the next day and be focused. And my job's very important. And they're upset. But at the end of the day, the band gets it. They know what they're getting. If they want me,
Right.
and I just hit the microphone. Sorry about that, sound guy. It's like I think of the Little Rascals guy with his hat blows off his head. If they want me, they got to kind of play by the rules. But we have friends that are full-time musicians. That's all they do, day in, day out. My good friends, the Amish Outlaws, travel all the way from Delaware all the way up to Rhode Island, and they're constantly on the road.
Right.
Check them out if you get a chance. They're my favorite band.
Now, what about your band? Is everyone a
Smokin
part-time?
Jackets are made up of many professionals. Tom Janarone, our drummer, is part owner of Bar Anticipation. He's also an attorney.
Right, and he's a comedian, isn't he?
No, he's just a funny guy. Not making money with it. Our keyboard player, Tom Carlock, is an engineer.
Okay.
And our other guitar player, Jim Barber, is a athletic trainer. And Dan, our bass player, we don't know what he does.
That's a good rock band
He's so
story.
quiet, and he's the quintessential bass guy.
Right, that's what they are.
He
right.
literally shows up 20 minutes before it's time to play. He has an amp and a wire and a guitar. He plugs in, he plays, does the gig, kills, unplugs it, goes home.
And that's it.
It's a job. And you know what? That's something to be said too. I do treat the band like a job.
Do you?
Know.
Now, does that take away from the joy?
Sometimes we get crazy. We don't like to drink and play if we can help it. A couple of beers is fine, but you want to be focused in any job, and the band is no different. I just don't know how guys, obviously I'm not doing drugs, so I'm a pharmacist, but I don't know how you do drugs and drink and all that and still
Play well.
Play well. I mean, that just
but
blows
the
my mind.
answer is if you listen.
I mean, I literally have one too many Coors Lights. I'm in trouble.
Right.
Like, I can't remember lyrics. I'm fumbling around.
Well, listen
Terrible.
to some of the old live Stones. They were horrible live sometimes.
So
They were sloppy as
But
could
we
be.
treat it as a job. When I leave the house and, like I know a lot of guys that play out, their wives or girlfriends are every single gig.
Right.
My wife's like, I'm going to work. Bye. I'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
We just treat it like a job.
But what does that do? Like, some people love. Well, let me ask you this way: do you like that job?
Love it.
All right, there you
Love
go.
it.
So.
That's what makes it worth playing out.
Right.
It's definitely not the money.
Right.
It's definitely not the fame. It's the enjoyment of playing in front of people, and like that burly guy who gave me
I mean, you must have been on cloud nine.
he thought it was, and
You cleaned up your pants.
the guys that love my kazoo playing.
Yeah. So we have two more things left before we wrap up. for
All
today.
right.
All right. One is.
And I have something for you too. I have to play for you.
That's the first thing.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to play a Dave Cohen original that I
Yeah.
don't remember.
We used to call Dave Chicka Chicka Cohen, which I don't know because he had a lot. Chicken.
Because I can't play lead.
This is the one, the riff.
Oh yeah.
That was
That's
the
our
first one.
video.
That's when we made a video. The other one was I forget what I was learning a cover. Maybe it was Paradise or. Like the David Lee Roth thing. And it reminded me that used to go.
Oh yes.
So there was a little bit of Dave Cohen in that. When I learned that song, I was like,
that's
that sounds awfully familiar.
I haven't heard or played that in 30 years. Because whatever I wrote at 2 chords, because that's all I did. Now.
Anyway, okay.
So I created a game for our show.
It's a game show now.
It is.
All right, nice.
All right. And I know your answer will be good for this. So it is 6 Degrees of John Bon Jovi. All right. Because
I
from
just
New
like to point
Jersey
out John Bon Jovi is older than me and will always be older than me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, all right, there has to be one. What are your John Bon Jovi connections, if any?
Well, the drummer of the band, Tico, is a good friend of the family. And that ties into the Lori music story.
Right, I remember that.
The Tico and my dad used to hang around at the music store and tell stories and this and that.
Your dad was like a mentor to him, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's
Probably
pretty
lent him a
cool.
few bucks over the years too, I would think.
Oh, really? Before he
Yeah,
became famous?
Right, and we just watched him grow from this guy playing in a little cover band in the Jersey
At Club
Shore
N.A.
to becoming internationally famous and eventually getting to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, I guess it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. So, yeah, very exciting stuff. Been at it a long time.
Now, in your travels, do you happen upon famous people? Have you shared the stage with anyone famous?
I guess the most famous person I ever played with was Constantine at the Pony that time.
I think that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Every once in a while we have people bring us on stage. Another good friend of ours is this guy Mark, who's in the WWE, or was. He's one of the Dudley Boys.
Oh, okay.
And he's brought us on stage a couple times. He's in the Hall of Fame too, at the WWE Hall of Fame. I went to see him get inducted last year. Ended up on television, and people were asking me backstage, "Are you famous?" And I go, "Yeah." I literally wore sunglasses like a jerk, just to make it look like I kind of fit in with all the other wrestlers who were definitely more famous than me. So play the role. What the hell? If you're gonna do it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So I think that our drummer Tom is pretty good friends with Dave Bryan, and Dave's has expressed an interest in coming to play with the Smokin Jackets. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it will happen. I'll have to.
Who's that?
Dave, he's the keyboard guy of Bon Jovi.
Oh, he is. I didn't
Come on,
know
get
that.
with it.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's not even, like, he's older than I am, too. So, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today for our very first episode.
Yeah, man, it was a blast.
I mean, our first ever guest.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. So we have many more shows coming on Guitar Tales. We will have local musicians, guitar players who you might not know, but who have stories to tell. We'll see you next time on Guitar Tales.